and to focus on Human Rights Day 2022 with the theme Dignity, Freedom and Justice for All. To talk further on that, we have joined us in the studio Harry Oguche Obe, Director, Women and Children Department at the National Human Rights Commission. You're welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
So obviously, a day like this is very, very significant because we have human rights issues around the world, just not Nigeria, not just Nigeria alone. But how well have we fared so far when we talk about human rights in Nigeria, of course, as we commemorate the International Human Rights Day?
Thank you so much. How well we have fared. It depends on who is talking about that and what you really expect, but generally speaking, I think Nigeria has fared well in terms of awareness and in terms of freedom or space for people to air their views and then seek to hold human rights violators accountable. And then if we take from the statistics of the type of complaints that comes to the commission, then we can really say that Nigerians are increasingly getting aware of their rights, and then they are seeking accountability for abuses and violations.
I know you are Director of Women and Children Department. Of course, that's one area that we have had countless experiences of human rights violation. But as a whole, what sort of complaints come more often to your commission?
Yeah, in terms of thematic areas of focus, we have about 14. Okay. But women and children actually has the highest number of complaints that come to the commission. So we can say that the complaints around the domestic space, family issues, and then violations within the domestic space is more in terms of numbers, followed closely by complaints on civil and political rights. Of course, civil and political rights, it's just the general, it's about issues of security, about freedom of movement, right to life, and things like that. But in recent times, especially since COVID, the violations around violence, gender-based violence, and violence within the domestic space.
Yeah, we witness an increase.
Exactly. The issues around that area.
But what really is being done? Because trust me, during that pandemic, period where people were being restricted, where there were restriction of movement in the country, we witnessed a rise in domestic violence, most especially on women and children. Now, what is being done really differently to checkmate the excesses of some of these incidences? Yeah,
I think what the area we have achieved a lot of milestone is really in the area of awareness creation, because the first step towards exiting a violation or a violating environment is being conscious of the fact that what is happening to you is not normal. And that there's actually an accountability mechanism somewhere you can assess. So we have achieved a lot. And then there are so many people that are looking out for the interests of others now, which is a very good development. Because like we always say, the first casualty of a violation is the ability of the victim to speak for his or herself. So other people or third parties, so to speak, look out for the interests of other people, literally speaking, being their neighbor's keeper, and then report on their behalf. And then there's a lot of quasi-judicial interventions, that is, interventions that are not strictly judicial. You don't have to go to court to effectuate some form of protection for the victim. So we have administrative bodies like the National Human Rights Commission issuing protection orders or taking preliminary steps to first and foremost remove the victim from the violating environment and providing some other palliative measures or interventions, and then follow up on the hard, if you like, hard component of accountability. That is ensuring prosecution and ensuring that whoever perpetrated the act is held accountable.
Well, held accountable. Now, before we talk about the lineup for as you commemorate the Human Rights Day, let's look at the politicians, because a lot of times we have had violations, with impunity, I must add, of individuals by politicians, and I don't know what is being done differently to check these excesses. Do you prosecute them? Do you charge them?
Yeah, the politicians are first and foremost, human beings, and so they have their own. The expectation is that they keep to rules. So if a politician violates human rights, the politician is dealt with as an individual and then held accountable as well. What we do is we deal with the individual as a citizen first. So if there's a complaint against you, you are invited and given the opportunity to air your own side of the story. And then if you're responsible, we give protection measures as much as possible, ask you to do certain things, refrain from continuing with that. And if a crime is committed in the course of that, our law actually mandates us to forward such report to the Attorney General of the Federation, or the Attorney General of the state, or the police for further investigation and prosecution.
All right, now quickly talk to me about your lineup.
Yeah,
I know it's been a week-long activity.
Yeah, it's been really packed full. Okay. We started off on the 2nd of this month through a media event where we rolled out all the activities. So far we've had intervention, or we've had collaboration with civil society organizations, where we had forums on civil and political rights, we had forums on civil liberties, we have forum on women and other at-risk group. We've also had forum on elections, and then peace and sustainable development. For today, there's going to be a walk. The walk should be ongoing now from Eagle Square, and then we're going to have a town hall where we engage the politicians to be able to give us an agenda, a human rights agenda for Nigerians as they seek to occupy public space come 2023.
Human rights agenda for Nigerians. A very interesting one, I must say. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and wish you a successful commemoration.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we have been chatting with Harry Oguche Obe. He's the Director of Women and Children Department of National Human Rights Commission.